One afternoon, there came a familiar tapping at Sara's door. She knew by the sound that it was Becky. But Becky was too excited for a response and burst into the room only moments after knocking. "Can we see it from your window?" "See what?" "There's a van and horse and men with furniture." "Do you mean the house next door?" Together they scrambled up onto Sara's thin mattress and craned their heads to see the road outside. Sara could just make out men in shirt sleeves, carrying heavy packages and furniture, though she could not see the entrance that they walked through. Still, there was only one house she knew to be vacant so close. "It's taken, it's really taken! Oh, I do hope a nice head will look out that attic window." "Wish we could go down and see up close, but couldn't have our backs for idling." "Oh, Becky, look!" Glimpsed for a moment were items that made Sara's heart give a quick beat of recognition. There was a beautiful table of elaborately wrought teak wood, and some chairs, and a screen covered with rich oriental embroidery. It looks so much like the things I used to see when I lived in India with my papa. "Do you remember my carved teakwood desk, Becky? Miss Minchin took it away to be sold." "Don't know what teakwood is, miss, but I know you had a very pretty desk." "Sometimes it's hard to remember from here what it was like in India. It feels like a dream slipping from my fingers." "Look now, there's a patterned rug. I thought I might never see such things again." "Miss, an idol!" The workers now had a Buddha in a splendid shrine. "Some of the family must have been to India. They've got used to Indian things and like having them around. I'm glad. I should feel as if those were friends, even if a head never looks out of the attic window." Becky's mind was still caught by the sight of the Buddha. "An heathen living next door, kneeling down and praying to a golden stone." "Oh, An heathen living next door and kneeling praying down to golden stone. Reckon somebody ought to send her a tract. You can get a tract for a penny." Sara laughed a little. "I don't believe they worship that idol. Some people like to keep them to look at because they are interesting. My papa had a beautiful one, and he did not worship it." "More romantic, if it's heathens, don't you think, miss? I never lived in next door to no heathens. I should like to have see what sort of ways they'd have." "People aren't so different, really, when you look at them closely enough. I'm sure we'll find out more about our new neighbors soon. They're only just next door, after all." Okay. Oh, did we not spend the pride? We just had to have a requisite amount of pride? Because I thought we were at 6 pride before. Huh. In any case, let's focus on our lower items. So, hunger. Well, hunger can be among them, but also we want pride. How can we get pride? Tending the fires. We don't want fatigue. So actually, we tend the fires early, so we don't get fatigue. I'd say. Give me dust and polish. I'd like more pain. The kitchen can work for hunger and pain. And wash clothes. Okay, that's not quite what I was looking for there. Still not what I was looking for. It's better than turning all chill into fatigue. At least. Okay. Too much fatigue, honestly. I wonder what happens if I max out a stat. Probably nothing. Like, nothing happened initially. In the first act. Sara was in the schoolroom with her small pupils. Having finished giving them their lesson, she was now gathering the French exercise books together. As she did so, she thought, as she often did, about the various things that royal personages in disguise had found themselves forced to do. Alfred the Great, for example, had wandered England like a peasant to hide from the invading Danes, begging for food in exchange for chores. Once he had been promised cakes by a farm wife if he would watch the stove while she herded the cows, but he was distracted thinking about his problems and the cakes burned, and the farm wife boxed his ears. She had no idea that he was anything but a poor beggar. How frightened she must have been when she learned what she'd done. Sara saw Miss Minchin enter the room to check on the progress of the older students. She lowered her gaze and smiled to herself. Imagine if she should find out that I, Sara, with my toes almost sticking out of my worn-out shoes, am truly a princess. She did not realize how this expression might look to the older woman, like a sly little smirk. You! All at once, Miss Minchin flew at Sara, pinching her ear and giving it a shake. It was so very like the way that Alfred's ears had been boxed that Sara, startled out of her dreams, could not help but give a little laugh. It was not planned, but simply a burst out of her. What are you laughing at, you bold, impudent child? It took Sara a few seconds to control herself sufficiently to remember that she was a princess. I was thinking. Beg my pardon at once. Sara hesitated a second before she replied. I beg your pardon for laughing, if it was rude, but I won't beg your pardon for thinking. What were you thinking? How dare you think? That exclamation caused a wave of quiet titters among the older students. Look at Sara. She's not even frightened. She's about to say something queer, I'm sure of it. I was thinking that you did not know what you were doing. That's not really an elegant way of putting it. I did not know what I was doing? I was thinking out what would happen if I were a princess, what I should do to you. And I was thinking that if I were the one, you would never dare to do it, whatever I said or did. And I was thinking how surprised and frightened you would be if you suddenly found out that I really was a princess and could do anything I liked. Every pair of eyes in the room widened to its full limits. Lavina leaned forward on her seat to look. Miss Minchin's hand flashed and Sara's cheeks glowed red. Go to your room this instant! Leave this schoolroom! And you, young ladies, attend your lessons! Sara made a little bow. Excuse me for laughing, if it was impolite. And she walked out of the room, leaving Miss Minchin struggling for words. Did you see that? How very odd she looked. Her eyes were glistening like a wild beast. I shouldn't be all that surprised if she did turn out to be something suppose she should. 2 pain, 2 pride. Okay, so we're at 6 pride, 7 pain. So we should be at 4 pride, 5 pain, if this is working how I think it should be. After the curious passion of their last encounter, Sara made a special effort to avoid being alone with Lavina. When possible, she traded tasks with Becky. If not, she let tasks in that room wait until Lavina was not present, even if it meant risking a scolding from Miss Minchin. Miss Minchin's anger was familiar and predictable. Lavina's was not. I don't understand what she wants. Avoiding Lavina had, for some while, been strangely easy. Where she was spending her time, Sara did not know, but it was not in her room, and not harassing Sara. Perhaps she wishes to keep her distance as well. Lavina always wanted to be the perfect lady. It can't be ladylike to act the way she did. That's why she didn't want me to tell anyone. But that respite could not last forever. The next summons came quite unexpectedly. Sara, could you please come in here for a moment? Please? I see some manner of trick, and yet it would not be polite to refuse. Hesitant as a doe approaching a groundskeeper, Sara walked into Lavina's room. Lavina sat at her desk, straight-backed, and did not turn to face her. I should like you to brush out my hair. Slowly, please. Be gentle. Sara picked up the silver-black-backed brush, feeling its smooth whorls warm against her skin, and stared at the back of Lavina's head. It would be easy, so very easy to strike her. Or at least to tug harshly at her hair, to catch at every tangle and yank her prissy head out of line. A princess would not do such things. She took up the brush and began to perform as requested. As you're correct. I can trust you. You're quite good at that, you know. Might make a lady's maid one day. Thank you. You have experience after all. I'm sure your own maid must have brushed your hair like this. What was her name? Mariette? Yes. You think I'm horrible, don't you? Self-awareness from Lavina? What? Sara did not answer. Of course it doesn't matter what you think. You're beneath me now. Your opinion is irrelevant. Even to you, you must do as you are told. It doesn't matter what you think of me, it only matters what I think of myself. But no, I can be generous. You are a girl of good breeding, fallen on hard times. It is a tragic circumstance deserving of pity. Yes! Former hereditary upper class. Solidarity. Let's go. How could any true English rose look upon you and not feel moved? And thus it behooves me to aid you. Aid me. Of course, though there is little I can do at this moment, while I'm only a schoolgirl. But perhaps, someday, when I have my own household, I could make you my maid. You would live with me under my roof, in my care. Isn't that generous? Sara's fingers clenched hard around the handle of the brush. Surely... I'm torn here, right? On the one hand, Miss Minchin is kind of, not the best to work for, so, it's probably an upgrade. And also, what if Lavina just wants to torture me? Maybe this is all still just a ploy to get the doll. But, would she really do something that drastic? I'd hire someone she hates into her household just to torment them? That seems kind of petty, even for Lavina. Miss Minchin said almost the same thing to me once. She brought me the black news and cast Mariette out, and took away my books and my clothing, and sent me to the attics, and then asked me to thank her for her kindness. Lavina made a little sound in the back of her throat, which might have been a muffled laugh. If she giggles at me, I will pull her hair out. I will. But no further laughter emerged. I can be much kinder than Miss Minchin, when I choose to be. Here, Sara, put that brush down. Come and sit on my bed. Lavina took Sara's hand in hers, not even commenting on the dirt. You must know that Miss Minchin will never reward your loyalty, and how much of it you give. You aren't important to her. She will use you as long as it's convenient and abandon you when it isn't. And yeah, as evidenced by history. She never liked you anyway. Not since that day you showed up at French lessons. C'est amusant. But I find you interesting. I can be good to you if you are good to me. I always feel that she wants something from me, but I never know what it is. Perhaps higher even than a lady's maid. I could keep you as my official companion. I'm unfamiliar with this position in a household. If you're looking for a companion, I think Jessie would be a better choice. Lavina dropped her hand. Jessie thinks nothing but what people tell her to think. What do I care for Jessie? Then what reward is there for Jessie's loyalty? Lavina's mouth fell open, but she said not a word. Fearing an outburst, Sara stood and moved away. If that's all you need, now we'll be going now. She left the room, followed only by silence. I don't know, I still can't take any of Lavina's actions as genuine or at face value. It was Sara, not Becky, who first caught sight of the man who had purchased the house next door. The day was wet with the unpleasant aftermath of the wrong amount of rain, enough to turn dirt to mud and trash to sludge, but not enough to wash the street stones clean. Sara had to be careful to mind her steps, or else she might wind up falling into filth. As she picked her way back to the seminary, she saw a carriage pull up and stop before the newly occupied house. One at a time, the entourage unfurled. First a footman, then a gentleman whom Sara thought she had seen around London before. Next, a nurse in uniform, and then 2 large manservants coming around to assist their master. Not the familiar gentleman, but a man with a haggard, distressed face, and a skeletal body wrapped in furs. He was carried up the steps, and the other gentleman followed behind him, looking anxious. Sara could not safely linger any longer to watch. The last thing she saw before heading back into Miss Minchin's seminary was the arrival of a doctor's carriage. Inside, Becky caught her to share the gossip. The gentleman next door is yellow, miss. Could he be Chinese and not from India? No, he's not Chinese. He's very ill. I hope it ends better for him than it did for my papa. Oh, miss. Please, I would rather be alone right now. Yes, miss. I would not rather be alone. I'd rather that my papa were here. Or even if I were back in my old rooms and Mariette were there. She picked up Emily and ran a hand over the doll's hair. You are all that I have. She set the doll back on the chair and perched her own thin form on the red footstool, gazing into Emily's glassy eyes. One of Sara's supposings was that Emily might be a kind of good witch who could protect her. Sometimes, after she had stared at her until she was wrought up to the highest pitch of fancifulness, she would ask her questions and find herself almost believing that Emily might answer. But Emily never did. Well, I don't answer people who speak to me very often either. I never answer when I can help it. When people are insulting you, there's nothing so good as not to say a word. Just to look at them and think. Miss Minchin turns pale with rage when I do it, and the girls look frightened. When you'll not fly into a passion, people know that you are stronger than they are, and they say stupid things they wish they hadn't said afterward. It's a good thing not to answer your enemies. Perhaps Emily is more like me than I am like myself. Perhaps she would rather not answer her friends either. She keeps it all in her heart. But the thought she tried to satisfy herself with these arguments, she did not find it easy. Okay, we did get reduction. Okay. So let's get the pride up. Pride is of the utmost importance, which tending the fires is supposed to be good for. Dusting can give us some. Kitchen can give us some. But tending fires is our highest probability for more pride. We also need pain, so we'll do... So do you want hunger? Or chill? I guess probably one of each, really. We just don't want to run errands. Okay. And we're probably going to max... Okay, we're definitely maxing fatigue here. That's fine. Just the fact that almost everything gives fatigue kind of made that inevitable. Two hunger, 4 fatigue, 2 pride, 3 pain, 1 chill, 2 sorrow. And that pride is still going up so slowly. When Sara stumbled up to the attic that night, her slim legs shook with exhaustion. She could not even reach the comfort of the red footstool before her knees gave out. It had been a terrible day. She had been sent out in the cold time and again, no one choosing to remember that she was only a child, and that she was not strong, and that her small body might be chilled and fragile. Cook's words had been vulgar and insolent. The girls had sneered amongst themselves at Sarah's shabbiness. Oh, Emily. Some men laugh at me because my old shoes made me slip down in the mud. I'm covered with mud now, and they laughed. And because I could not find that last thing the cook sent me for, they would not give me any supper. I'm so hungry. Can't you hear me, Emily? I'm hungry and I'm cold and I'm tired. Why won't you say something? Say anything! There is nobody but you to care for me. No one in the whole world. She looked at the staring glass eyes and complacent face, and suddenly a sort of heartbroken rage seized her. She lifted her little savage hand and with one sweep knocked Emily off the chair. You're nothing but a doll! Nothing but a doll! Doll! You care for nothing. You are stuffed with sawdust. You never had a heart. Nothing could ever make you feel. You are a doll! Sara hid her face in her arms and burst into a passion of sobbing. Sara, who almost never cried. Emily lay on the floor with her legs ignominiously doubled up and over her head, but her face remained calm, even dignified. Sarah's sobs gradually quieted themselves. After a while, she raised her face and looked at Emily, who seemed from this angle to be gazing at her with a kind of glassy-eyed sympathy. Oh, Emily, you can't help being a doll. Not any more than Ermengarde can help being plump, or Lavina and Jessie can help not having any sense. We're not all made alike. Granted, everything I just stated are not technically immutable characteristics, right? I mean, losing weight, you can do that if you eat less food. And having an attitude change, that's just called personal development and character growth, but, whatever. Same as being a doll. Sara picked up Emily and kissed her, then shook her clothes straight and put her back upon the chair. Perhaps you do your sawdust best. I must do my best as well. Okay, these are going to get expensive. 4 hunger, 4 fatigue, and 4 chill. You love seeing the fatigue getting spent, that's for certain. There you are. What thought you could stay in bed all day? Sara rubbed her arms, trying to warm them, and chased the fog of sleep from her eyes. The sun isn't even up yet. Sun has more right to be lazy than you do. One of them young ladies wants her breakfast delivered to her room, so get to it! It went without saying that Sara had not herself eaten breakfast, that she would not have time to snatch even a bite while preparing the meal, that the task might keep her out until all food was cleared away. It could not be helped. Sara prepared the heavy tray, heaped with toast and eggs and fruit and kippers, and carried it up to Lavina's room. The door was unhelpfully shut. I should have had Becky come up with me to knock. She did not dare attempt to balance the tray one-handed, and calling through the door would be vulgar. Careful not to disarrange the contents, she set the tray upon a hall table. That done, she knocked gently on the door. Yes, what is it? I've brought you breakfast. Oh, good, please bring it in at once. Sara opened the door, then turned back to pick up the tea tray again. Inside, Lavina was seated like a queen upon her bed, her back supported by a nest of pillows. Set the tray upon my desk, and be quick about it. I've been waiting, you know. Yes, Miss Herbert. Miss Herbert. And just think, not so very long ago, your Mariette would have done the same for you. No one brings you breakfast anymore, do they, Sara? No. Perhaps we should call you Mariette? Or Marionette, a poor, pitiful puppet who dances for anyone who pulls your strings. Sara took a deep breath, reminding herself that she was a princess, and a princess should not respond to such taunts. Not at all suitable for a lady's companion. Can't imagine what I was thinking. Well, I am certain I will find someone more appropriate in the future. I'm sure you will. If you're pleased, then I will go. Wait. She sat up in a smooth motion, her eyes never leaving Sara's, her head sliding in like that of a dancing cobra. Have you eaten today? No. Then please sit. Share my meal. What? I ordered enough for two. Go ahead. It's safe. You made it yourself, didn't you? There's no trick. Unless you were trying to poison me in the kitchen. Of course not. Go on then. Enjoy it. She moved closer so that she could reach the food from the side of the bed where she sat. Unable to muster any objection, Sara pulled out the chair, sat down, and picked up a piece of toast. She looked over at Lavina quickly in case the other girl would suddenly object or throw juice in her face. Nothing. Cautiously, Sara bit a corner of the toast. You can do better than that. Look at you, you're far too thin for a girl. Put some kippers on that, or at least some eggs. Lavina spooned the soft scrambled eggs onto her own toast and ate with gusto. Does she truly mean to be kind to me? It had been a long time since Sara had seen so rich a meal, and her nerves would not quite let her enjoy it, any more than a doe could graze without care in the presence of a tiger. But she was a little girl, long deprived, and it was food, and it was available. She ate. After she finished her toast, Lavina smiled at Sara and licked her lips. You see, I can be generous. And you should work harder at your duties. Take this back to the kitchen and be quick about it. Don't you know that I need to dress for class? Yes, Miss Herbert. Do you pity me or despise me? I wish that you would say it clearly. It's a complicated relationship we have with Lavina at the moment. Sara lay in her little bed, and the skylight covered her with the grey light of morning, but there was no warmth in it. No warmth either in the unlit fire, and very little to be found in the old blankets. Perhaps I'll freeze in place some night lying here, like Snow White in her crystal coffin. But what prince would find me here alone in an attic to wake me from my slumber? I don't even have dwarves to tend to me. Fairytale princesses are often rescued by princes, but it is not so much the case for true princesses and queens. Mary, Queen of Scots, had to ride her own horse and raise her own army for her escape. She was very brave, but they caught her again, and in the end she was executed, just like Marie Antoinette. I think it is very noble to be a queen who must carry on even when she is sad or afraid. More noble than a princess who sleeps and waits to be saved. I have to carry on. That means, first I must rise from my bed. Another day of work stretched before her, and no rescue in sight. Okay. Could use to get the chill up. Running errands can help with that. Double that. Aside from that, you want hunger. Hunger can be addressed with the kitchen, while also maybe having a chance for pride. And then tending the fires. If we're going to do that, we should do it first so we don't accidentally turn our chill into fatigue. Yeah. Okay, not great, but it's fine. Would have been worse if we had put that roll would have been worse if we had put it at the end, because there would go all of our chill. We need chill. Gotta chill. Okay, 2 hunger, 3 fatigue, 1 pain, 4 chill. Okay, week. Hopefully we're not asking... And we're at 9 or above with everything except for pride right now, which seems like a good place to be. I don't know how many weeks we can afford to skip and still get to the conclusion. So, I don't know what our wiggle room is. So, gotta be on point. There are fine sunsets even in London, sometimes, but most people could only see parts of them between the chimneys and over the roofs. Down in the kitchens, one could not see them at all, and could only guess that they were happening because the bricks looked warmer, the air rosy or yellow for a while. From the bedrooms of the boarding students, the views are only slightly better. Perhaps one might see a blazing glow as it struck a pane of glass on a nearby window. But there was so much more to be seen. Tiles of red or gold clouds in the west, or the purple ones edged with dazzling brightness, or the little fleecy floating ones tinged with rose color and looking like flights of pink doves scurrying across the blue in a great hurry if there was a wind. There was one place from which a viewer could see the sunset, skies and all their splendor. That place was, of course, the attic window. When the square outside the seminary began to take on that enchanted glow, Sara would, if possible, steal away and creep up the flights of stairs to her attic to lean as far out of the window as she could. When she had accomplished this, she always drew a long breath in the golden light of sunset. Even the London air seemed pure. This wonder is mine alone. It is the one joy of life in this attic, the one beauty that has been granted to me. No one else ever looked out of the other attics. Generally the skylights were closed, but even if they were propped open to admit air, no one seemed to come near them. Sara turned her face upward to the sky, which seemed so friendly and so near, like a lovely vaulted ceiling, and watched the colors change and flow. Sometimes the clouds made islands, or great mountains enclosing lakes of deep turquoise blue or liquid amber, or chrysoprase green? Sometimes dark headlands jutted into strange lost seas. The sparrows twittered softly around her, and Sara felt for a moment almost as if she could float away into the sky. But in the end, at last, it was necessary to lower her head again. Wait, what was that? For a moment she thought that she had seen a shape beyond the attic window, in the house that the gentleman from India had taken. Perhaps someone was there. Perhaps the window will open and a head. But there was no one. Just a trick of the lights. Really splendid sunsets always make me feel as if something strange was just going to happen. Perhaps someday it will.